Lo que parecía ser una pugna interna en el Pentágono terminó convirtiéndose en un reflejo de cómo Donald Trump utiliza a sus secretarios como extensiones de sí mismo. Esta vez, el protagonista es Pete Hegseth, un funcionario cuya lealtad al presidente lo ha llevado a decisiones cuestionables, despidos arbitrarios y un manejo político de las Fuerzas Armadas que pone en entredicho la seguridad nacional. El escándalo más reciente comenzó con las filtraciones sobre su postura frente al despliegue de la Guardia Nacional. Mientras congresistas cuestionaban la inacción del gobierno de Trump durante el asalto del Capitolio el 6 de enero, Hegseth dejó claro que estaba dispuesto a usar Fuerzas Armadas en las calles cuando se trataba de proteger a instituciones alineadas con Trump, pero no cuando se trataba de defender la sede del Congreso bajo ataque. Un recordatorio rápido, si te está gustando este video no olvides suscribirte, comentar y darle a like. Dicho esto, seguimos.
The National Guard was deployed here on January 6th, and that was a decision made by the Department of Defense. Do you support that decision? Do you believe that that was the right decision to deploy the National Guard to defend the Capitol on January 6th?
All I know is it's the right decision to be deploying the National Guard in Los Angeles to defend ICE agents who deserve to be defended in the execution of their jobs.
But I think it's important to know whether you think it was also important to have the National Guard defending the United States Capitol when there were violent protesters here on the president's behalf, to make sure that folks know that you care about protest, whether it's against the president or on behalf of the president.
Senator, I was in the Washington, D.C. National Guard when that happened and was initially ordered to go guard the inauguration of Joe Biden. But because of the politicization of the Biden administration, my orders were revoked. And ultimately, because of the politics that were being played inside the Defense Department by the previous administration.
But do you support the decision made on January 6th to send the National Guard here to defend
I
the
support
Capitol?
the decision that President Trump made and requesting the National Guard that was denied.
So you do not.
President Trump
you do not support the decision.
You do not for the National Guard in
to
advance
send the National Guard here
denied.
to defend the Capitol. I think that speaks to the worry that many Americans have that there is a double standard, that you are not willing to defend against attacks made on our democracy by supporters of the president, but you are willing to deploy the National Guard to protect against protesters who are criticizing the president. That's not how our taxpayer dollars are supposed to work. They're supposed to be used to defend the United States.
Esta doble vara expone un problema central. No se trata de seguridad ni de defensa institucional, sino de una obediencia política. La lógica de Pete es la de un funcionario que actúa en nombre de Trump, incluso anticipándose a lo que el presidente dirá, aunque eso implique comprometer la neutralidad del Departamento de Justicia.
The police that don't work. I'm going to bring in the National Guard. I'm going to bring in federal marshals. I'm going to bring in the park police.
How long will that be?
Who knows? How long? What is the?
Well, it costs money, right?
Sure, it does.
It costs money, and the question is, are you there for a year? Are you there for 6 months? And when the troops pull out, what happens?
I would call this conditions-based. I would say it's a situation where we're here to support law enforcement. And the more we can free them up to do their job, the more effective they can be, the more we can work. I mean, this isn't my realm, but the
episodio escaló cuando Hegseth destituyó al general Jeffrey Cruz, jefe de la Agencia de Inteligencia de la Defensa. La razón, un informe técnico que contradecía las afirmaciones de Trump sobre los bombardeos en Irán. El reporte indicaba que los daños eran mucho menores a los que Trump presumió públicamente. En lugar de aceptar la evaluación profesional, la respuesta fue el despido fulminante.
In the made-for-TV / ongoing national nightmare that is the second presidency of Donald Trump, tonight we are tracking two big stories coming out of the Department of Justice, although there's some others we'll discuss over the next 2 hours. The first being the FBI raid on the home and office of former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton. You can see the pictures of them taking boxes out there. It started just after dawn this morning. It went on for nearly 8 hours. Bolton has become a prominent Trump critic and was talking about fear of retribution from the president as early as last week. We're going to have more on that story, but then hours after this news broke, the DOJ released the audio recordings of those highly irregular meetings. I mean, truly, truly anomalous, unprecedented, between Donald Trump's former personal defense attorney, the guy that, tried to get him cleared of criminal charges, who is now the #2 at DOJ, that guy, Todd Blanche, and the convicted sex offender, Ghislaine Maxwell. She, of course, notoriously famously the longtime confidant and enabler, co-conspirator of the late child sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. Blanche announced that the 6 hours of recordings and 329 pages of transcripts were being released today, quote, in the interest of transparency, although it's not clear that that's all of their conversation. More on that later. Missing from the transparency, of course, is the obvious question, why on earth would the Deputy Attorney General take a private meeting with a convicted child sex trafficker who his boss, Donald Trump, has ties to, and then, as soon as she tells him what she told him, gets upgraded to a lower security federal prison? Now, that question remains unanswered. What we do know from the trove of materials they released is that much of the interview with Maxwell seems to be an attempt to support the narrative that, surprise, surprise, the Department of Justice and Donald Trump have been pushing.
In any type of massage setting, I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody. In the times that I was with him, he was a gentleman in all respects.
If there's one word that comes to mind with Donald Trump, of course, it's gentleman. He was a gentleman in all respects. But here's the thing. Maxwell did not stop there. She went on to tell the Deputy Attorney General of these United States that she, the lady who was charged with conspiring with Epstein to abuse minors, who's convicted of that and doing time for it, that she, get this, ready for this? That she never saw Jeffrey Epstein engage in anything that was non-consensual.
At some point, he was getting massages 7 days a week, sometimes multiple massages a day. Women have said that were there, that say they were there giving him massages, said that those included some sort of sexual conduct, however you define that in the broadest sense, not just a traditional massage regularly. So what did you see and hear at the time? Where does that leave you in your mind with what happened?
Okay, so I saw Epstein with women. What I mean by that is he would have women around him. So anytime I saw anybody with him, they were happy to be with him. So I never saw an aggressive move. I never saw anything that was
non-consensual.
Well, thank you. Okay. I never saw anything that was non-consensual.
Did you see him engage in sexual conduct during massages?
Well, you could define sexual conduct as in, I did see women who could have been, less than normally clad for massage, but especially on the island where they would be in a bikini or possibly even topless. Yeah, I did see that.
Nope. Did you get all that? Didn't see anything. Women around him all the time, but seemed happy to be there. Everything was consensual. Jeffrey Epstein, the New York financier. Jeffrey Epstein with the island. Jeffrey Epstein never violated the
Este caso ilustra lo que senadores y demócratas republicanos han denunciado en repetidas ocasiones: la transformación de los organismos de seguridad en pruebas de lealtad personal hacia Trump. En lugar de garantizar que la inteligencia sirva para proteger al país, se la manipula para respaldar la situación política. Funcionarios convertidos en defensores personales, decisiones militares condicionadas por intereses políticos y un departamento de justicia que actúa como blindaje frente a los escándalos. Desde la gestión de Maxwell hasta la destitución de mandos militares, el hilo conductor es el mismo: aparato estatal que se mueve para proteger la imagen de Trump y castigar cualquier contradicción. El caso de Hegseth no es ningún error aislado, sino la confirmación de cómo Trump busca rodearse de figuras dispuestas a priorizar su lealtad personal por encima de la seguridad y la inconstitucionalidad del país. Una dinámica que erosiona la independencia de los organismos del gobierno y coloca a la democracia en un terreno cada vez más frágil. Y yo les pregunto a ustedes, ¿consideran que el despido general de Cruz demuestra un uso político de inteligencia militar? ¿Hasta qué punto la lealtad ciega de figuras como Pete Hegseth pone en riesgo la seguridad nacional? Si valoran este análisis y quieren que más personas comprendan la magnitud de estos hechos, los invitamos a suscribirse, dejar un like y compartir este video. Esto es Rumor de Estado.